So the next part of our module is about the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the financial system. Okay, so actually here, when we say Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, okay, so you already are familiar of this. Okay, so this is our central bank here in the Philippines. Okay, so Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP is the country's central monetary authority that provides policy directions in the areas of money, banking, and credit. So it also supervises operations of banks and exercises regulatory powers over non-banking financial institutions. So again, as I've mentioned earlier, BSP is our central bank. So BSP was created by Republic Act number 7653, otherwise known as the New Central Bank Act of 1993. So BSP has powers and functions that are exercised by its monetary board that consists of the 7 members. So their board is consists of 7 members appointed by the President of the Philippines. So the BSP's main primary objective is to maintain price stability, conducive to balance and sustainable economic growth. It also aims to promote and preserve monetary stability and the convertibility of the national currency. So aside from facilitating or monitoring or overseeing the financial system in our country, they also have other functions which we will discuss as we go along. Okay, so as part of their function, so they're what we call liquidity management. So here, BSP, they formulate and implement monetary policy, okay, aimed at influencing money supply consistent with its primary objective, that is to maintain price stability. So normally, here, as a central bank, so they are also engaged into formulation of and implementation of monetary policies that the government in the country, all of us are should follow. Okay, so here this is also to support their objective of maintaining price stability. So aside from overseeing the financial or the banking system, they have this very important role or function as well. So because here when we say maintain the price stability, this is to prevent also not preventing but avoiding higher rates in terms of inflation. Okay, when we say inflation, this is where or when the prices of the commodities go up, okay, and the consumers will not be able to afford to purchase because it's for them it's very expensive. Okay, this is one way of actually regulating, okay, and maintaining the price stability. Okay, another is currency issue. Okay, so BSP actually has exclusive power to issue the national currency, okay, our money, our medium of exchange here in the Philippines. All notes and coins issued by BSP are fully guaranteed by the government and are considered legal tender for all private and public debts. So if you could notice, as the time passes by, BSP are actually campaigning for avoiding forfeited money or notes. Okay, that's why our currency has been transformed into uh, different forms with special features to eliminate fraudulent acts of those who are creating false or fake money. Okay, so this has special or specific qualities. Okay, so that those forfeiters will not be able to um, create, okay, and circulate fake monies in the market. Okay, so again, only those that are issued by the BSP are considered legal tender in our country as a form of medium of exchange. Okay, so the next is they also function as the lender of last resort. So what does this mean? Meaning to say, they extend discounts, loans, and advances to banking institutions for liquidity purposes. So they also help, aside from regulating these banks, they also help them, okay, in terms of extending these types of services for those banking institution who needs, okay, this service or help. Okay, so the next is they also have the function of financial supervision, of course, since they are the central or the mother bank, okay, in our country. So here they supervise banks and exercises regulatory powers over non-bank institution, performing quasi-banking functions. So actually, there are also banks or financial institutions like lending who are uh, considering also cash or deposit transactions, but they are not bank. Okay, they may be lending corporation or financial institutions of other type. Okay, so again, they are also part of those who are being supervised by the BSP. So not only the banks. Okay, so another is BSP also manage foreign currency reserves. Okay, so here to maintain sufficient international reserves to meet any foreseeable net demands for foreign currencies, in order to preserve the international stability also and convertibility of the Philippine peso. So this function actually is very important, so that our the exchange rate of our Philippine peso over those other currencies uh, will will not be that far. I mean, if we have foreign currency reserves, meaning to say our or the status of the Philippine peso is also not affected by the current currency or exchange rate. So, for example, I mean this status makes our currency strong. Or okay, let us take for example $1 is equal to 48 pesos. So, meaning to say, if we are going to compare the Philippine peso with that of the US dollars, we can say that the Philippine peso is very weak because with just $1, we have to exchange 48 pesos. So, in order for the country to actually maintain its strong status in terms of convertibility, so they have to have enough foreign currency reserves. That's why our OFWs who are uh, remitting um, foreign currencies plays an important role in this situation or case. So they are valued because they are the ones who are bringing to us foreign currency, okay, and make our reserves sufficient for international demands, okay, for that currency or foreign currencies. Okay, another is determination of exchange rates policy. So again, this is part of the BSP's function. So here they determine the exchange rate policy for the Philippines. So they also adhere to the market-oriented foreign exchange rate policy, such as that of the role of Bangko Sentral is principally to ensure orderly conditions in the market. So, actually, when determining how much will be exchanged, Okay, in terms of foreign currency exchange. So we have also in our country through the BSP the policy for that. But they also have, or the Philippines also have to adhere with the uh, policy of the international market. So it's not just us that we decide that to decide what exchange rate should be appropriate, okay, for foreign currency exchanges. So again, this is part of the function of PSP. So the next is other activities aside from what we have mentioned. So they also function as banker, financial advisor, and official depository of the government. Okay, and its political subdivisions and instrumentalities, and a government-owned and controlled corporations. Okay, so if you could notice, there are a lot of functions that BSP is playing, okay, when it comes to our Philippine financial system. So that's how important central bank is in a country. Okay, so those are the different functions of BSP. Okay, so aside from that, we have also here the main or the three pillars of central bank. So normally, as what we have discussed earlier, so they summarized it into three major classification. So here, they adhere or function for price stability, financial stability, and efficient payments and settlement system. So this is how they classify those different functions into three main functions of their agency. Okay, so this is just a sort of uh, introduction and overview of what Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is. So if you would like to learn more about BSP, you can go through their official website and read and learn more about our central bank. So this are just essential features that we have taken, okay, for this module for you to be able to understand what Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is. Okay. So the next is the Philippine financial system. Okay. So here, our Philippine financial system is basically classified into banking institution and non-financial or banking institution. So the first is the banking institutions. So in the Philippines, in our country, the banking institution can be categorized as private and government banking. So when we say private banking, these institutions are comprised of course, the commercial banks, such as commercial banks and ordinary commercial banks. We also have thrift banks like savings and mortgage banks, private development banks, and stock savings, as well as loan association and the rural banks. So we will go through each of them later. So here, the government banking institution, on the other hand, consists of the Philippine National Bank, Development Bank of the Philippines, Land Bank of the Philippines, and the Philippine Amana Bank. Okay, so we go through these different types of banking, private and government banking institution. Okay, so the first one under the private banking institution is the commercial banking institution. So again, you are very familiar with this type of financial institution. We have mentioned this since in our second module. So here again, commercial banking institutions are ordinary commercial banks or non-expanded commercial banks. So these banks continue to account for a bulk of the total resources of the banking industry. So meaning to say they are engaged into deposit and withdrawal and other financial transactions that they offer to their clients. Okay. What about thrift banks? Okay, so basically, thrift banks are engaged in mobilizing small savings of the people. Okay, so they have a limit in terms of deposit that they can actually receive, okay, from their depositors, unlike that of the commercial banks, because here they are considered to be small scale banking institution. So here they provide also funds for agriculture and industry at reasonable interest rates. So they also offer loans, okay, with a reasonable interest rates for those who are engaged in the agricultural and industrial sector. So the small procedures like, or producers, I mean, like the farmers, the fishermen, craftsmen, and poor consumers can rely on these banks for financing their production and consumption inputs. Okay, so the following falls under the category of thrift banks. We will see we have the savings and banks. So here, their function is to receive time deposit of the different types and invest its fund also in long-term investment. Okay, so they are considered to be savings. So those who are depositing in this type of thrift banks, the money that is being deposited to them, okay, they are also forwarding this and investing this to long-term investment to also earn interest. Okay, so another is savings and loans associations. So they are also considered as thrift banks. So here, they are very similar to the savings and mortgage banks. However, these institutions may either be stock or non-stock corporation. But then again, they are just like or the same as the savings and mortgage banks. Okay, another type of thrift bank is the private development banks. So here they are quite different from the government institution of the same name, or PNK development bank, but this is private development bank. Okay, so here this is different. Okay, we are talking about thrift banks. So it is a government entity, formerly the Rehabilitation Finance Corporation. Okay, but it was being transformed into thrift banks. Another is the rural banks. So here, rural banks fulfill the investment function by allowing small farmers to finance their needs through the granting of loans for capital and other uses. So if you are farmers, you can go through the rural banks so they can facilitate loans with lower interest for you. Okay. So those are for the thrift banks. So again, private banking institution are the commercial banking institution and the thrift banks. So the big and small banks are basically part of the private banking institution in our country. So now we go to the government banking institutions. Okay, so what are the government banking institutions? The first one is we have PNB. Okay, so I know you are familiar with this bank. So PNB is actually the Philippine National Bank. So it operates under the provision of Executive Order number 80, which is the 1996 revised Charter of PNB. Okay, so again, they also act as like those of a commercial bank, but with limited functions, because there are some restrictions that was provided for them by the government. Okay, so the next type of government banking institution is DBP, or this is the Development Bank of the Philippines. Okay, so DBP started operating in 1935 as National Loan and Investment Board. Its first mission was to coordinate and manage trust fund, but as time goes along, so they eventually transformed into a banking institution which serves the needs of their clients by by accepting deposits and withdrawals and others. Okay, they also are extending loans. Okay, so the next government banking institution is Land Bank of the Philippines, so or LBP. This is the Agrarian Reform Code that is who created Land Bank, okay, of the Philippines to finance the acquisition and distribution of agricultural estates for division and resell these small landowners. But again, as the time passes by, they eventually changed into a banking institution which also cater other types of clients aside from the uh, agriculture, aside from those which are engaged in agricultural sector. Okay, and the last is or in the last government banking institution is Amana Islamic Bank. So this is not very familiar with us, basically because Amana, by the way, means Al Amana Islamic Investment Bank of the Philippines, or they are also known as the Islamic Bank. Okay, so basically this is created under Republic Act number 6848 for the purpose of promoting and accelerating the socio-economic growth of Mindanao, particularly the provinces of Cotabato, Lanao del Sur, Lanao del Norte, Zamboanga del Sur, Zamboanga del Norte, and Sulu. Okay, so that's why this is not very familiar with us because this bank only operates in those areas mentioned, specifically in Mindanao part, okay, of the country. Okay, so those are for the banking institution for private and government classifications. So the next is we go to the private non-bank financial institutions. Okay, so here actually this types of financial institutions, we have already mentioned some of this in our previous discussion. So I know that you, or yeah, I mean you should be aware or be familiarized with this already at this point. Okay, so the first one are the investment house or banks. So here, when we say investment house, this is any enterprise which engage in the underwriting of securities of other corporation. Okay, so what is underwriting? Underwriting is actually the act or process of guaranteeing the distribution and sale of securities of any kind issued by another corporations. Mean to say, investment house banks also are functioning as that of the brokers or investment banks, which facilitates again the financial transactions for capital and investment. Okay, so securities are written evidences of ownership. So interest or participation in any enterprise or written evidences of indebtedness of a person or enterprise. So of course, if you become an investor later on, one of the most important thing that you should have as a proof that you have entered into this type of financial transaction are the securities or the certificates of ownership. This is actually what is being underwritten, okay, to make sure that these transactions are completed and entered into legitimately, okay, and that has also complied with the legal requirements. Okay, so this is how investment house or banks functions. Okay, so the next are the securities brokers or dealers. So here again, this is the same as what we have mentioned earlier. So pursuant to the provision of the Revised Securities Act, no broker, dealer, or salesman must engage in business in the Philippines, such as broker, dealer, or salesman or sell any securities, including securities that are exempted under the said law. So again, as you could still remember in our discussions earlier, only those brokers who are regulated by the capital market regulators are allowed to enter into this type of financial transactions. Okay, another are for the private non-bank financial institution are the building and loan associations. So building and loan associations are actually a special type of savings institution that receives savings from members and lends funds to them. So the difference between this building and loan associations from that of the banking institution is that they only cater and serve their members because they are in the form of associations. Okay, unlike in the banking institution, they serve the general public, okay, as their clients. Okay, another are credit unions. So this is another type of saving institutions, and they also has their purpose in the inculcation of the habit of thrift, frugality, and the idea of helping one another. So it's like also that of the association. Okay, so but with a different form in this case because they have also their own objectives as mentioned. Okay, the next are the private insurance. Okay, so these are companies that contribute to the country's socioeconomic development as the insured. Okay, so again here, they are part of the insurance market. Okay, so they sell, or if you want to buy insurance, they are the ones who are providing this for their clients or to the general public. Okay, another are pawn shop. Okay, so you're familiar with pawn shops. Okay, this institution, they are non-bank financial institutions. Okay, so pawn shop normally provide credit also, but to small borrowers who are not qualified to obtain small loans from financial institutions such as banks. So if you want to take credit, okay, but you are not qualified for uh, taking loans from banks, so you can go to pawn shops. Okay, so the cost of borrowing and terms of payments are generally fair, or you can have your collateral. Okay, and depending on their agreement and contract, so you can be extended of the loan that you need. Okay, but this is quite, for a small amount of borrowings. Okay, the next are the trust companies. So again, we've mentioned this in the second module. So these are any corporation formed or organized for the purpose of acting as a trustee or administering any trust or holding property or deposit for use on behalf of the other person, individual, or institution, or what we call beneficiary. So again, trust company serves as a protector and a manager of the asset or investment for the meantime in behalf of their beneficiaries. Another is the non-stock savings and loans association. So they are a corporation engaged in the business of accumulating the savings of their members. So again, they are association. So they only cater and provide services to their members. The next is financing companies or partnerships. So these companies, except those that are regulated by BSP, the Insurance Commissioner, and the Cooperative Administration Office, which are primarily organized for the purpose of extending credit facilities to consumer and to industrial, commercial, and agricultural enterprises. So they are also acting just the same function as that of the commercial banks, but then they are not regulated by the BSP. They are private and small in form compared to that of the commercial banks. So the next is other non-bank financial institutions. So they are financial institutions that are unknown to many people because they are considered to be small scale. And fund managers, lending investor, and venture capital corporations are among these types of institutions. So they normally operate in a small part of the country, or their location might be located in a single province or region. Okay, so that's why they are considered to be unknown to many people. Okay, so the next is for the government non-financial institution. So again, we have private financial institution and government financial institution. And the second classification is private non-financial institution and government non-financial institution. Okay, so for the government non-financial institution, the first that we have here is the GSIS, or this is the government system, or government service insurance system, that is, of course, only catering those who are in the public service or in the government service. Okay, so GSIS, on May 30, 1937, so the government insurance system started the operations. Presently, they administer the following. So they have life insurance. They also have retirement fund, health insurance, fund medicine, state insurance for employees, compensation, general insurance fund or property insurance, and barangay officials life insurance. So basically, they are engaged into transactions with that of the government employee and its agencies. Okay, the next is we have SSS, or Social Security System. So you're familiar with this also. On September 1, 1957, SSS started its operation. At first, it granted only death, disability, sickness, and old age benefits under its Social Security program for workers and employees, okay, in the private sector. So as its capacity, the funding and administrative expenses grew. Other benefits have added to the program, such as hospitalization, other or under their Medicare program, employees compensation benefits, and maternity benefits. So actually, SSS is the counterpart of GSIS. GSIS is for the government employees. SSS is for the private employees. So you might wonder, again, although they cater those of the employees who are in the private service, but they again are a part of the government non-financial institution. Okay. So the next is the Philippine Export and Foreign Loan Guarantee Corporation, for the PEFLG. So this is created through the Presidential Decree number 1080. So they undertake the following functions. They guarantee the approved foreign loans in whole or in part. They also grant to any domestic entity. So enterprise or corporation, the majority of the capital is owned by the citizen of the Philippines. This is the requirement, okay, for them to be able to approve foreign loans. Okay, so that is for Philippine Export and Foreign Loan. Okay, the next government non-financial institution is NHMFC, or what we call National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation. So here, the primary purpose of NHMFC is to develop and provide a secondary market for home mortgages granted by the public and or private home financing institution. So under Section 5 of the Presidential Decree number 1267, And HMFC is authorized to exercise the following functions. So what are their role? So first, to purchase, acquire, sell, discount, refinance, or otherwise deal in home mortgages or participate therein under such terms and conditions that are allowed by the board of directors of the corporations. Second, also to borrow funds from domestic or foreign private public financial institutions. Third, to own, lease, purchase, or otherwise acquire, sell or otherwise dispose of the property. Okay, next, to invest funds or monies of the corporations not invested in mortgage loans, and to enter into the and perform such contracts with any person or public or private as may be necessary. Also, to adopt, alter, and use corporate seal, to sue and to be sued, and to promulgate such rules and regulations to perform those duties and responsibilities. So again, NHMFC are more engaged into home mortgages and the uh, different aspects that relates to its transactions. Okay, so those are the government non-financial institutions. Okay, so this ends our module 3.